Hi, my name is Marta Dzido. I'm the author of a novel Frajda, and I'm going to read a part of it in English, translated by Kate Webster. Thrills. Do you remember? Oh, yes, perfectly. We lay on our backs in the grass and swept the clouds away with a stick stretched up into the sky. The horses were drinking water from the stream. Your breasts were bare. I was always ready then. All I had to do was look at you, even without looking, your very presence, your smell, your closeness. A few moments earlier, we did a magical plant, a spell herb. We wanted to experience everything, ever more and ever stronger. And although we didn't fully believe in its magic powers, we had to try it. For fun, adventure, out of desire of experience something new. Just when I thought that nothing would come of this sorcery, you fell into a long half-sleep, and I had the impression that I swallowed a butterfly, that I had butterflies in my stomach. The woods turned into a jungle, and suddenly you were standing under a tree wrapped from head to toe in colorful yarn. My legs grew into the ground. I took root. You were speaking to me in a non-existent language I didn't understand. I watched you feed the horses with sugar cubes. They let you stroke them and tug at their manes. They were wild, but it didn't bother you. You chose a shiny one and galloped off. I didn't chase you. My arms grew high into the sky like branches. I touched the clouds and moved them so they weren't blocking out the sun. So it was still summer, and warm and good. I thought, how easy this is. Why didn't I think of it before? It has deep meaning. Nothing else is needed. I stroked the sun and turned it in my hands until I burned my fingertips, until I found you were beside me and asking, surprised, "What wild horses? I don't know anything about that." You said there hadn't been any horses. Instead, you showed me spiral drawings made with a stick on the ground, barely visible. You said you'd found an equation that you could solve everything. Later, when you were exhausted, I carried you through a meadow full of bleating sheep. We fell asleep in a haystack in a clearing, which I named for you Delusionist Glade. We were somewhere in another dimension, in another universe. Maybe I was dreaming you, I don't know. I'm not sure myself anymore. The next day, when you were swimming in the lake, I whittled a wooden spoon for you, because it was the only way, the one and only, that I could tell you what we were never supposed to say. The days were shorter and the sun further and further away. I was no longer able to turn it in my hands and pull it close to us. I didn't want to go back. I hoped that maybe we'd find an old abandoned house surrounded by trees, hidden behind a fence, and there we'd be able to extend it all a bit longer. It was too cold. Impossible to light a bonfire from the wet wood. The leaves were turning yellow. I was helpless. I wanted to tell you then, this can't last forever. But I stayed silent, furious at myself. Then you hugged me and whispered, "I know." A week later, you were sitting on a school bench watching September through the window, scribbling in the margins of your notebook, equations explaining everything. An unreal girl from another land, a lover tasting of a cool lake, mine, not mine, because we knew that it couldn't be repeated in normal everyday life. We didn't even have to talk about it loud. I knew you knew, but I secretly hoped that maybe someday, all of a sudden, our lines would cross. You'd allow the comet to graze the earth. I'd fall asleep inside you again, and you would smile again with fulfillment. There was something appealing about it, a secret hanging stickily between us like a summer storm coming, the fact that you didn't expect anything, that you didn't want any assurances, confirmations or promises. You were in parallel with me, at arm's reach, yet alongside, without any certainty, yet with a sense of at any time. You were a surprise, an adventure. I was waiting for you subconsciously, like waiting for a prize. I said, you are my crazy story, my wildest journey. Every cliché gains depth with you. You replied, just don't ever want anything from me. Don't forbid me anything. Don't have expectations. I met you at various parties, blushing from the wine, warmed from the dancing. You liked fooling around, you liked to flirt, you kissed guys, girls. Undergrads were keen to buy you drinks. They devoured you with their eyes. I sat at the table and watched. No one apart from us knew that you were teasing me, but it was a part of the fun. You knew it excited me, that it was a fire you could light even with wet wood. You were so free, sometimes even too free, swinging in a streak of light, a stranger's hand on your hip. You glanced at me surreptitiously. You swept your hair up of your neck. I wanted to lick you there, but I sat motionless, watching as someone else stroked you. His appetite growing, I begged you in my mind, have mercy on me. You laughed. It gave you a thrill when you saw my whole body was beseeching you. You were dispensing doses of uncertainty, building tension, stretching to the limits. I didn't know if you'd live with him or maybe alone, if you'd walk past me indifferently as if we were strangers. I waited. 2 hours later, I'm running my fingers over your sweetie stomach. You are crouching on top of me. It's uncomfortable and dark. Someone is knocking on the door. There are several toilets in the club, but this one is unique because its walls are made of one-way mirrors. I turn the lock. I say it's occupied. I caress you quickly and furiously. I look through the window pane at the people by the bar. The guy you were dancing with is there too. He's looking around, searching for you, but I know that he won't find you anymore. It's irrelevant now anyway, because you are with me now. Me in you, you in me. And I'm the one who will devour you, not him. My hand on your hip. You're panting. All of this anticipation in me is sitting, brimming, boiling, the longed for and sudden explosion, then unsweet sigh. I feel bliss and relief, and I'm grateful to you. I didn't want to size you for myself. You were still so fresh then. I thought, have fun, taste, imbibe and experience. I was only a way station on your route. And other people liked you, so why not? Anyway, I also wanted a lot, more than a lot. The girls were different, but all were clingy and keen. Sometimes you asked me to tell you. I'll talk about the one who painted her toenails in angry red, that her tongue was rough like cats, that you lay with your back to me on the rumpled sheets. I told you about my last fleeting one night, not even just a couple of hours romance. Romance is too big a word. Adventure, sexual episode, staring at your bare shoulder blades, your small arms, the back of your neck covered in a soft dark down. You encouraged me to talk. So I talk and talk without seeing your face. Suddenly you turned around. You were holding a green earring. It shimmered in the light, and you just looked at me. No expression in your face. I couldn't sense what you were thinking, but there was a slightly offended note in your voice. Looks like she left something behind, you said, narrowing your eyes. I didn't think that you could be hurt by something so irrelevant. Some other girl who was there for a second and then gone. Some earring she'd left. Anyway, you'd ask me to tell you something from time to time. After all, we were supposed not to forbid each other anything. No limitation, no... You got up quickly. You picked up your clothes from the floor. You tied your hair back. I've got to go. I felt a slight twinge. You put your hood up. You always did that when you wanted to hide, run away, become invisible. You crouched down to tie your laces. I knew there was no point to saying anything else, stopping you, explaining. I watched your agile cat-like movements. You were ready to leave, were just about to grab the door handle. Standing in the doorway, you turned to me for a moment and sang, "Oh, Mister, I'm really gonna miss ya." Then you burst off laughing, and the slam of the door reverberated behind you. All this happened at the time when the now word polyamory didn't exist in the Polish dictionary. Instead, there was the second-person singular feminine, the first-person singular masculine, and the plural, which was widely skirted around. Plenty of adverbs, all preceded by most. Names called out in the vocative and snatches of gerund clauses, uttered of an exhalation, whispered or mumbled onomatopoeias. No questions, even rhetorical. The past perfect didn't exist, nor did the imperative. Just as in the Sicilian dialect there was no future tense, as in Albanian there was no such word as humility, and as in Spanish there was an absence of that subtle difference between I love and I desire. Those two verbs merged into one. Soft, mellow, and pleasant to ear. Oh yes, I want, very much, te quiero mucho. Now, immediately, right this minute, je t'aime and moi non plus. I whispered to you right after, hieta kana koga tamaranai. It was a spell, perhaps heard in a song, perhaps invented, presented in the rhythm of a haiku and smelling of a deer in the cold. The words and their meanings were not important. We relished the impression and the sound. Tomorrow was uncertain, and yesterday was already gone. Our tongue were not for uttering words and arranging them into sentences, but for touching, tasting, and caressing. What did you do after that for all those years? I was a wife, warm and pleasant to touch, a happy mother. I sang lullabies. I felt that I'd already cooled, that I'd calmed down. I participated in other stories, faced different challenges, but the heat was still smoldering. It just needed to be fueled. Did you ever think about me? Actually, no, it's better you don't tell me. There was a gentle late summer breeze, as usual. Your hand was cold. We sneaked along the park's deserted path, through the dark undergrowth, and sat down on the grass. A fat orange crept into the sky and grew there, glowering at us from beyond the treetops, and below, in the water, another one almost identical, though slightly wrinkled, and older orange sister from the inside of reality. I've wanted to bring you here for so long, you said. We sat in a silence, admiring the show playing out over our heads. When the curtain came down, we hid in your car, with your park, which you'd parked under the watchful eye of the cameras at the gated community nearby, beneath the windows of people paying off loans so huge that they can't even enjoy living there. The car windows steamed up slightly from the inside. I moved my finger up your thigh, the way you like it, or at least you used to like it back then. You had goosebumps. You shied away at first. What if someone saw us? What then? We made love hurriedly, uncomfortably, on the rolled back seats. There was something poignant about it, as if for a moment we were those kids again, as if time didn't exist. I found that girl in you, not my lover from years ago, tasting like a cool lake. After 15 minutes my breathing calmed. You wiped your thigh with a tissue, repeating your words. I asked, what if someone saw us? What then? Your eyes glistened. You kissed me and said, then they'll envy us. After a while you turned on your phone, the cold blue light on your face and your voice like I'd never heard it before. Shit, I have to go home. You started up the engine and set off in silence. We drove through the empty city. The amber lights flickered at the crossroads. The radio played unsettling, monotonous music. Everything inside me was trembling, but you were driving at least 20 over the speed limit. I wanted to touch you again, but I didn't know how. You dropped me off at the bus stop. I watched as the car disappeared around the bend, you in it, and you were gone. I stood there like a fool, with no clue what it was all about, why it had happened. You'd made me delete your number from my phone, but I knew it by heart anyway. I decided that once I'd cooled off, I'd write you a message, that I wouldn't let you just drive off like that into the night for another 15 years. I sent you a text. I don't remember now exactly what it said. I wrote that what I felt, what I wanted with you, and that I thought the previous evening had ended too soon. You made me wait a few hours for a reply, and just when I'd lost all hope that you'd write back, and I was actually close to thinking there was no point, that the most exciting things are those that can't be repeated. So let's not repeat it, let's leave it as it is. Go our separate ways. That's when I got your response. You wrote, everyone knows the alphabet, and everyone has access to letters, but you are the only one who knows how to arrange the letters into words in the exact order that instantly gets me wet. And you? What were you up to all those years? I had some more fun at first. I went round in circles. I became tired of the repetition of events, people, situations. I started judging, comparing. Then I was afraid that I'd never experience excitement again. Instead of pure joy, there was more and more cynicism and irony. And the time came when I could no longer turn back. The day the corporation's door opened and sucked me inside. I took a deep breath. The fasten seatbelt sign came on. In the event of a sudden loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will be released automatically. Put your own mask on first before helping children. Warning: severe turbulence may occur. I took off. My first step in the clouds was an endless maze of corridors, glass-walled lifts, an artificial garden, offices with myriad entries but no exits. The chip of the ID badge, and the moment I passed through that gate was the point at which the curtain fell on my life and the subtitle appeared on screen. 15 years have passed. The long dark hours revolved around projects, schedules, budgets, evaluations, deadlines. I became blind to the world, deaf to myself. There was always something more important that needed doing right away. I was competing against myself, initially with ambition and the belief that what I was doing made sense, later out of routine, involuntarily, as if I were on the conveyor belt. Some days I felt I was moving up the levels in the game known as a lifetime career. Other days I was only pretending to do something. I spent half the day scrolling through Facebook and the other half with a headache. I took flights to pointless business meetings and taxis to empty hotel rooms. The view of clouds below, and we wish you a pleasant journey. Sometimes the thought occurred to me that maybe you were also wandering the earth, drowned into a vortex of repetition, departures and returns. That maybe one day our path would cross. I'll meet you dressed in a black dress with a zip at the back. You'll let me unzip you. You'll be ready for me instantly. We're the kings of life, you whispered to me when we were winding down the back streets of the sleeping city long ago. A couple of teenagers, tipsy and horny, back then, before all those springs and summers went by. A porter chased us away from outside the hotel. We couldn't afford to spend the night there, and we ended up in a playground, in a wooden train carriage. We opened a bottle of wine with a nail. We caressed each other until dawn, until we were out of breath, until the birds in the treetops began to caw and daybreak came. Do you remember? 20 years ago the porter chased us. You won't believe it, but I spent a night there recently. In the morning, a few minutes after 7, I'm leaving at the very hotel. The taxi's waiting. I'm in a rush because of the train, because of important business, because... And then I see a couple of kids. A girl and a guy staggering towards me. She's wearing an oversized sweatshirt, disheveled. He's got his arm around her waist. They're clearly cold but happy, crazed with nocturnal frenzy. "Excuse me, have you got a light?" asks the boy. The question hangs in the air. Now he's the king of life, and me? Where's my light? You weren't with me then, but I thought about you many times. One day I saw a photo of you in the paper, next to a picture of James Dean. The caption said, "Rebels." I read that you were the voice of a generation. You flashed up on my TV screen. I heard you on the radio. They asked whether you were a feminist, whether you saw yourself as a member of Generation Nothing. You spoke calmly, without wobbling, without stuttering. You were in the bookshop of the bestseller shelf. I touched the edge of the cover timidly. I opened you blindly, to a random page, stuck my nose in the middle and sniffed. The strong, provocative scent of 200 pages printed with your words. I caressed the paper. I always believed you were going to write. I was happy you'd done it. I felt a prickle of pleasure as I thought to myself, oh yes, I knew this girl before you all met her. I knew every inch of her. Her breasts fit my hands perfectly. I was sucking her toes long before she was published. The voice of a generation would whisper to me, insatiable, more, more. Before she debuted for you, she sent dozens of letters to me. In her unique handwriting, she wrote of things you'd never even dreamed of, things you'd be scared to ask, things that aren't polite, things you might call dirty. I remembered all those dirty things I'd done with you, and the things you'd done to me. Oh yes, I felt a glimmer of satisfaction then. I was proud of you, though I couldn't express that to you. I thought it occurred to me maybe I could buy you, have you, and own you forever, put you on the shelf next to others, or lie you on the bed, pick you up when the mood took me. With the last of my strength, I restrained myself because I remember what we'd promised never to do to each other. Yes, I thought about you. How could I have known that at that moment you were on an intercity train, freezing cold and hungry, returning from somewhere like Olsztyn or Bytom, from a book reading with your last 10 zlotys in your pocket because you'd been told you'd get a refund and fee when the installment from the ministry came in, but the installment still hadn't reached your account. If only I'd known I'd have come to pick you up. I'd never have guessed, it wouldn't have occurred to me that while everyone was eagerly asking you what your next book was about and when it was out, you are afraid to collect a notification from the post office. That earlier that day you'd received one phone call from a rude man at the bank, and a moment later another from a nice lady, when an enchanting voice asking for an interview about femininity for a women's magazine. I was convinced that you were happy, completely satisfied, that you were wallowing in success. I didn't want to disturb you, to turn up the peaceful surface of your lake. It never crossed my mind that in your photo on Wikipedia you looked quite content. Again, it's the year 1990-something. You're wearing a black ankle-length skirt, wedge-heeled shoes, a skimpy jacket with a fur collar. Your lips are painted purple. You've cut off your hair completely. You are practically bald. You say, I've got rid of all that and now I can start again. You've assumed a different expression, sharpened, grown up. You're a bit like the heroine from the most important work of the French New Wave. Actually, we both look like those people from black and white films. We wander around the city, improvising, the only difference being that I haven't killed anyone. I don't have to run away from anyone. Although maybe I'd like to. The shots are overexposed, unsteady, the dialogue's trivial breaking off. Sometimes there is a sudden cut, a jump to another place, some random flashback. Other times an incomprehensibly longer, like now, for example. You are standing on the edge of the roof. You are looking at the enclosed courtyard below, in the background the sound of Placu Lubelskiej at night. The peacocks are screeching in the nearby park, the most beautiful in the city. my feet a dozen or so meters above the ground. You lean forward slightly. You say you've dreamed about this before, and that knowing it was dream you took a step into the air, opened your arms and... Everyone has to fly sometimes, I reply. And you say that now you are not sure if it's a dream. Don't try to check, I say. What if I do? Not a chance. I grab you around the waist. I draw you to me. I like you with this new hairstyle, almost no hair at all. You are a bit like a boy. I imagine that under your long skirt you are hiding a penis with a rising and swelling for me, that it's warm, succulent, and I take it, you. When I fly in my dreams, it's like I'm swimming breaststroke. I take it into my mouth and caress it. You grasp my head, run your fingers. You. Not at all like a bird that flaps its wings. I fly completely differently. You run your fingers through my hair. I hear your sigh and I know what to do to make you feel incredible. You. As if I weren't soaring in the air, but in invisible water. Is it a dream, you ask, looking at me dazedly. I can take it any longer. I want you now, right now. I unzip your jacket, slide my head under your top, squeeze your hard nipple. You. Is it a dream? Me. I have no idea. But come to me, baby. Let's not waste time. Life is passing us by so quickly.